This is 16 to 1, a podcast about education, teaching, and learning. Ready?
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, we're not reporting to you from a national park this week.
No. You're not going to
Sadly.
hear me scream about bugs. If you do, it's a whole new issue.
If you do, the bugs are inside the house.
I feel like I'm normally fairly put together, and when there are bugs and tall grass and streams, it's a whole other game for me. That's like...
Bugs, tall grass, and streams. Keep
also,
them away from you.
I don't know if it was accurately conveyed in that episode, but Chelsea was like, let's go sit on this little bank, and like, Chelsea's 4 inches taller than me. So when Chelsea sits on a bank, she can like reach the water. But for me, my legs were just like, if you're short, you know this. We're just doing that thing where they weren't really bending because they're not long enough to like bend where they should. So then I'm like hanging over the edge and then I'm like dangling in. So for her, it was like a comfortable pose.
I was
and
just
for
dangling my
me,
toes in the warm water.
Mine was like hyperextended because I couldn't like bend where I was supposed to. So that was thrown in with the bugs. Anyways.
Yeah, the bank was not gradual to the water. It was like a cut,
No, it was just
like a
cut
cut
off,
It was
yeah.
weird. Anyway.
I mean, they don't care. They're not trying to, you know. The
I mean,
animals
it
are
was,
fine
It was
to get
au
in.
naturel. It was naturally
truly
that way.
Yeah, but for Chelsea, that was a little different than for me.
Yeah.
So, here we are.
But we did have a really fun trip.
It was beautiful.
We're back now.
I've seen pictures now of the West, and I hate it because it's so hazy. It's just so many fires.
There are a lot of
It's
wildfires going on.
blowing
out there right
south from Canada's fires. It's blowing everywhere from the fires in the United States. And so I saw a side-by-side comparison of like the beginning of June and beginning of July. And
now. With the Tetons?
yeah, the Tetons.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just looked like someone put a filter on the photo that just made it smoky. So, man, rough times. Hope
Yeah.
everyone's okay.
We did have a good view of it, though. That's
We
for sure.
had great, it was perfect weather. Actually, we didn't really have smoke until we got back to Montana, truly. So happy to be home.
Yep.
Getting out of the mountain time zone is a bit of a struggle for me.
Yeah, the trip
Especially,
back
I mean,
is
we
much
were there
harder.
for like almost 2 weeks. So we had almost gotten, into
Adjusted.
it. And then we came right back home and I was like, oh gosh, it's early.
We've learned that we have trouble sleeping at altitude.
I have trouble doing everything in altitude.
I can't. Yeah, well, that's true, too.
I get headaches.
Drinking is hard at
yeah.
altitude. You know, the fun kind.
Sleeping is hard.
Sleeping is really hard at altitude for me. Breathing,
The air.
existing, moving.
The air is thinner, which is nice,
Yes.
but there's less of it, which is bad.
Going up any stairs, very, very difficult.
Very hard. Well, I mean, how privileged we are to get to travel the way
Yeah.
that we do.
It's a long
But
drive, though. I'm
it
not
is
sure
a
we're
long
going to do
drive.
that drive again. Maybe we
I
will.
think we need to figure out. I have an idea for next year.
Yeah.
I think we could make it more appealing to do
Train travel appeals to me.
that, but also I kind of want to do like the go to Chicago for a night. Like I want to do like chunks along
Yeah.
the way. I think that would be more reasonable.
Break it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what we're talking about next summer, so here we are. Great trip. Always good to be home. I don't realize how much I miss home until we get home. Like when we're out there doing stuff, I'm like, adventure, adventure, adventure. And then once we got like 5 hours from home, I'm like, all right, it's time. Let me just.
Especially post-COVID, I'm very much a homebody.
Yeah. I mean, I always liked to be home before COVID, but now I'm like, please don't make me leave my happy place. But it was good.
Well, what do we want to jump right into it? What are we talking
Yeah, we
about
can
this
if
week?
you're ready to.
Yeah, let's just go for
We
it.
are talking this week. We are talking about teacher licenses and the credentials that you need to be a teacher if
Yeah.
you so choose that for yourself,
The whole process of
and what it looks
getting
like
the stamp of approval.
for all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to start?
Well,
It is your turn for the history.
the history.
I think
of the
I
thing?
said a little bit. Oh no, I think you told the history. Anyways,
Yeah. Okay, so history. Teaching licensure 101.
yes.
Sit your butt down in a chair for a very exciting trip through.
We're gonna make it quick, but Chelsea does
history.
talk about her long-term committed boyfriend.
Horace Mann is not my boyfriend.
What'd you call him earlier?
You
when I
really
said-
gotta stop with that.
You said something really funny about Horace Mann earlier that pretty much confirmed he's your boyfriend. Anyways, okay. So in the 1800s, what was it like?
Well, yeah, way back when, proto So again, we focus on the American educational system and public schools usually in particular, but we also talk about other things. But for the most part, we're talking about public school licensure requirements. So we go in the Wayback Machine all the way back to like the 1800s when there were a lot of male teachers because, you know, that's just, we only trust the menfolk to enlighten the masses. I don't know about you, but everything I've ever learned, I learned from a man. So,
Is this about Horace Man? Was
that's
that a
a
Horace
joke.
Man joke?
this is no, it was just some other failed
Come on,
attempt.
you had a moment there. You had a real
Horace Man. So anyway,
Oh man.
teachers, when we first started out, the people we trusted with the education of the youth were not really credentialed a lot of times in any way. They tended to have basic educations themselves, and they were often people who had other professions. So like farmers, merchants.
Right.
It was a lot of like reading, writing, arithmetic, but no, talk to the tune of a hickory stick. Yeah, this kind of era.
I don't know that one.
So, oh yeah, it's an old school song about school. Anyway, yeah, arithmetic, reading, writing, and skills-based tasks are within the competencies of these kinds of teachers at this time. So the usual standard for being trained or hired, it's pretty straightforward. You had to pass a review by a local school board or a town council because school boards weren't really a thing at the beginning, but so they were usually governed by the towns
The locals.
in which they're applying. Yeah. And you might have to pass a basic competency exam, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Who knows? For better educated teachers, they tend to be more highly sought after. Those young men or young men with more prescribed career prospects, an initial teaching job usually was a stepping stone to some different kind of profession, often like law or clergy people.
The background of this was very like, oh, I know a guy. He would be great at this. He's from like the neighboring town, and their dad. You know, it's like it was like that. That's kind of how it
My
seemed.
cousin over in whatever hollow, it's a stone's throw from here. I don't know why, but as I'm reciting all of this, I just got like the Maple Leaf Rag playing in my head.
Yeah,
in the
you're
background.
really going through it over there. I'm not.
Old-timey school days. Okay. Anyway, then we fast forward a little bit to
Horace Man.
dun, 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 Horace Man.
I'm gonna let you take Horace Man.
So we've talked a lot about Horace Man.
I've only talked about Horace Man, and he doesn't have his own episode yet, which means that surely one entire episode I'll just sit here and listen to Horace Man's whole story.
I mean, I feel every time we have to talk about Horace Man, I feel like I'm in grad school again because we're just like, okay, everybody, here's what Horace Man
This
did.
was someone that I like read about, but like passing by. It was just like, check Horace Man. Next. It was not in any sort of committed, deep way.
Well, so my area of study in grad school was like history and philosophy of education.
Oh.
So it was basically just like...
So your major was Horace Man?
I majored in man. All right.
And now look at you.
Now look at me go. Okay, so anyway, he did a lot of stuff that we've talked about in a lot of episodes. Maybe we'll give him his own someday, but probably not because I'm honestly tired
Sometime
of
when I
talking
take
about
an
it.
episode off, it's just going to be Chelsea sitting here with like a PowerPoint of
No,
Horace Man.
I'm
and
gonna make it-
he's
no,
going to
no.
be sitting. He's going to have like a heart
It's
around
not going to
his
be a
face.
PowerPoint. It's going to be a dramatic monologue. A Germanic... Dramatic? Germanic? A Germanic... I'm going to do it in German. A Germanic dramatic
Is
monologue.
Horace Man German?
No, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Don't ask me that.
Anyways, okay. Let's just get through this.
so-
What did he do for the sake of licenses?
Oh, so he did a lot of stuff, and we've talked about
Chelsea
it.
steps on her Horace Man soapbox, puts on a pen, waves a flag.
Get on my high Horace, man. Okay. Anyway, he does a lot of formalizing and organizing of what to that point had been very disjointed and kind of case by case. So like this whole thinking that we've kind of inherited this way of thinking in terms of like national standards for like NCLB kind of as the great grandchild of ideas that might have been started by Horace Mann. So anyway, he's trying to take
That's a big statement.
Well, he's trying to take a lot of moving parts and normalize and formalize these systems so that everybody has a chance, you know,
What a
in
hero.
terms of what their education provides them. Anyway,
We love it. We stand the man.
so one of the things that he was all about was a new model of better trained, more formally educated professional teachers.
So this is his fault.
Yeah, it really
hate
is. Teaching as a profession really did not exist 200 years ago in the way that we know it now. So he is in large part responsible for kicking things off in this country.
So he's not one of those, like, if you can do, if you can't teach guys. That's great.
No, he would say the opposite of that, kind of.
Thank God. Okay, I'm back on, like, +1 for Horace.
So prior to this time, we didn't really have a kind of formal academic study of pedagogy. So people would study, you know, subject matters and whatnot. But the idea of studying how to teach
Didn't really
pedagogy
happen. Sure.
did not exist before. I think you have around 1837. Here's the date normal schools start popping up.
I'm not sure that's exactly the year, but that was like the rough time frame.
Yeah. So I think around the 1830s, and here you have some notes about normal schools starting to pop up. And these are places where aspiring teachers would learn instructional methods and subject matter disciplines. So this is kind of the start of America's formal academic study of pedagogy.
Like what we know it as. Yeah.
Yep. And then we get into the late 1800s. There's a note here about in 1890, NYU, New York University, established the first school of pedagogy. And this is like a college focused on pedagogy. And then I also had a note here about
a
bonus school, which is Teachers College, where I went to graduate school for education. That predated the NYU what's now called the Steinhardt School.
Really?
Yeah.
So my history was wrong.
No. I think this was the first. So TC, Teachers College, Columbia University. It was the first graduate school of education.
Oh my bad.
It was founded in 1887. So the late 1800s, this whole time period is when we're really kind of buckling down and starting to provide teachers with more formal classroom and pedagogical training and stuff like that. So yeah, Teachers College is the oldest and largest graduate school of education in the United States.
I didn't know that.
I did. Can't escape it when you go there. Like, look at us. We're friggin' old and we're friggin' awesome. Horseman. Actually, their big dude is John Dewey because he taught there.
Dewey. Well, maybe he'll get an episode.
Maybe we'll give him one too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about, like, I don't know, the 1900s? Anything happen there?
I don't care about those. I'm just kidding. Why don't you jump in?
Okay,
Help
so the 20th
1900s.
century model.
I do care about that. I'm just feeling spunky today. I don't know what it is.
Really
It's
are.
just, I'm all worked up about Horace Mann.
All right. Well, NYU Steinhardt's early mission was to educate administrators and prepare graduates to serve as instructors in college-level teacher education programs. By the 1920s, the school was preparing teachers across all disciplines and all levels and offered undergrad, graduate, and doctorates to these people.
Interesting. So they didn't start out aiming at secondary school teachers.
No, that didn't
primary
seem
and
to be the
secondary
case
school
at all.
teachers.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they were trying to produce college professors?
Yeah.
So the first pedagogical school in the country was trying to produce...
maybe that is where you start, though, right? Maybe you have to teach the teachers.
You have to teach the people who teach the teachers.
See what I mean?
Chicken and egg, I think, there.
I mean, it kind of makes sense,
But they're starting off by teaching people who will become professors of pedagogy.
Yes. Which kind of checks out.
Huh.
Not the worst way to go about it if you're going to start somewhere.
You might as well.
Okay. So after that, other colleges and universities did quickly follow that model. And so that provided basically that usual pathway for future primary elementary grade teachers as far as them getting an undergraduate in education. Like undergraduate major in education. Sorry. So for students who know that they want to pursue secondary or higher teaching, they might focus on that specific discipline they want to teach, such as English, math, history, science, or another field. And then from there, you pair that with your required education classes. And that's how you kind of build that degree in most schools. And so depending on the institution, the program, and the state, education majors can receive training while they're still in undergrad at an accredited school of education. And so they take part in that training that includes observing actual classes, student teaching, and other methods that can lead to getting their actual first teaching certification.
Yeah, so we jump forward in time now. We're no longer in like the 1920s.
Well, no, but it just
kind
of laid the foundation for how we now get what we get.
We kind of go directly from there to now, which is the credentialing program that we have now. Yep.
And so then as part of that, candidates also have to complete initial certifications and licensure preparations after undergraduate graduation or through a specific teacher education program, such as those recognized by the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation.
Wow.
CAEP. We love it all.
So completing initial certification and licensure preparation. What does that look like?
For me,
yeah. Tell me about it.
I graduated in 2012 with an undergraduate. I didn't get my job until 2013 because I had to do student teaching. So but I had to take what was called the Praxis.
Right.
And the Praxis was a academic skills test, basically. And so we had to take two. We had to take one about education in general, and then one about, for me, since I'm an English teacher, it was basically like the history of literature in a test.
Yikes.
And I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably good I didn't know how bad it was going to be. Because had I known, not great. I probably would have had to
A really hard test, is that what you're
breathe
saying?
into a paper bag for a while.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
I walked in blind, which was great. I mean, I passed on my first try, which was truly a miracle based on my preparation for it, but it was hard. I mean, it was like the education one was really easy because that one is just like, if you just follow your gut a lot, like you're doing the right thing. The literature one was not that. It was like, and what year did Virginia Woolf, like, it was like those types of things.
Oh my goodness.
It was truly, I mean, stupid. Anyways, so I had to do that.
Okay.
So then
We've all
when
probably
I got,
heard, like, anyone kind of vaguely adjacent to public school educators knows what Praxis.
yeah, Praxis
knows
has
about
been
Praxis.
around. It was part of your student teaching. It's part of your,
Praxis is like the equivalent of passing the bar, but for teachers. Kind
yes,
of. Yeah.
except for it doesn't exist in the way that it used to.
Yeah.
Now we do other things. So I had to take the Praxis test, but then when I got into my job, we no longer were observed using Praxis. Instead, the state of Ohio had its own thing called RESA. And so that is the program that you have to do for your first 3 years of teaching in Ohio. That then, if you pass all of that, allows you to apply for your first 5-year professional license.
Okay, so you have like a conditional.
You have like a
baby kitty
you have
license.
a 3-year.
called like provisional. It's something
Yeah,
like that.
it's like a provisional license, but it's like for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then if you're like me and you fail one part of RESA, your 3rd year, you get a 1-year provisional and you get one chance to fix it. So I did that with year 4, and then I got a 5-year professional license after that. And so next summer, I had to get a new 5-year license.
Yay.
Yes.
Well,
so
let's talk
that's
about-
that's how Ohio does it. So like,
Hold on. Can we just go through it like
Yeah, I'm
step
sorry.
by
Of
just
course.
step by step?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I really want people to grasp how there are a lot of checks and balances on a lot of professions, but the levels of checks and balances. And again, I'm not necessarily sure that I think that making sure that teachers are good teachers is a bad thing, but like I think there's kind of some
hoops are bad.
yeah, there are a lot of hoops and bureaucratic weirdnesses to jump through when
Okay.
it comes to this
So
stuff.
for example-
yeah, take me through the whole process start to finish.
So first you have to go to an approved teacher preparation program.
So that's your college.
So that is, yeah, but that could be, and like the second one is like earn your bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. That also means you might be piecing it together if you're returning to become a teacher later in life or whatever.
Yeah,
So you have to have some kind of undergraduate, right? Like major,
Right,
like
right.
you've already need that. It's just a matter of how you piece it together. So my undergraduate was English. I added on minors in history and communication and education. So I did all my teaching stuff, did my student teaching, okay? And then you have to pass that content area exam and the professional knowledge exam, which was my praxis at the time. You have to pass a criminal background check. And then you also have to keep doing those every so many years. I can't remember how long it is. how
Background
often
checks?
it is, yeah. But every so many years you get an email that says you have to go swipe your fingers and
Well, just so they make sure you're not doing crimes.
yeah, you have to do it like every so often. And my dad gets so mad about this because he's like, my fingerprints haven't changed. But anyways,
That is actually kind of weird.
It
Why do
is-
they need a new
I
set
think it's
of
because they. I think it's actually that's when they rerun them. Anyways, so then you apply for your initial license, and so that's the 4-year resident educator license through the Ohio Department of Education. In my case, so that's when you do this RESA program, which is a
Gotcha.
resident educator process. You do these videos in year 3. It's changed now. I'm not sure exactly what the rotation is, but in my year 3, we did do 4 videos.
Everything
2
you're
videos.
describing sounds really horrible.
It was horrible. Here's what they wanted you to do, though.
Yeah, I want to know.
These videos at the time were so nuts because they didn't want there to be any bias in grading them. So they wanted you to try to eliminate any way that they would know what school you taught in. So
Oh.
I had to sit kids in certain places on that
like
day
block stuff in your
because
room?
they were wearing our school's shirt
I wouldn't
or
even-
our school's whatever.
Gosh.
And like I had to redecorate part of my room because I have a bunch of school stuff hanging
Why
up.
wouldn't they just say you're from this district and then just like find people
When you
who
submit
don't
the
know?
stuff, you have to support with what district you're in.
Yeah.
Because you have to talk about what your
Yeah, that's what I'm
economic
saying. If they
status
already
is.
know, if they already know what district you're in, why don't they just find people who? I mean,
Anyways.
are they trying to say that you could be so biased that even like someone halfway across the state who's reviewing your thing is gonna be biased against the fact
I have
that
no
you?
idea. I failed
That's
one of the
weird.
videos by 1 point because they could see a kid's tie,
Wow.
and it had our initials on it.
They take points off of your thing for not anonymizing
That's
it?
why I failed it. Yeah. So I had to redo it the next year.
Which has literally nothing to do with your proficiency as
And
an
I had already
educator.
moved around like a ton of kids because of that. It was so stupid.
Okay, now I'm mad
Anyways,
again.
okay.
I usually get mad when you tell me about what you've had to do to like acquire and maintain your teaching license, and that now I'm mad again. Okay, well, continue.
So that was
please.
RESA.
Carry on. RESA.
So once you pass RESA, and the overlords of the Ohio Department of Education allow you to keep your job
Not my favorite people.
and give
the
you a
overlords.
professional license, then you can keep teaching. So then, in the beginning of your 5-year professional, you have to create what is called a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically something that you submit to the committee that approves whatever your plan is. And it's basically like, this is your 5-year goal.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the professional development that you do to support you getting that next license has to fall within this thing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. But basically, once you get done with your 4-year resident educator in Ohio, like I said, then you get your 5-year. Once you get your 5-year, then you start doing all of your continuing education, advancing education stuff. And then there was also the requirements for the highly qualified teachers according to No Child Left Behind. And that's changed a little bit, but it's still basically rewarding districts and teachers for having degrees in their field. And for
Advanced
being-
degrees.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, that meant in my 3rd year of teaching, while I was also doing RESA and failing one part of it, my school was like, you know what, you need an English major or master's. So also to be fair, they gave me money, which was great. And so I went and got my English master's. But that was why I got a master's in English and not in education. And so
because they want you to have subject matter expertise.
Yes, and
that's
because
what they called it at the
in
time.
order to teach the dual enrollment classes through a local college or university, they will not let you teach those courses unless you have a master's in the field.
The effect of this is really
It's a lot. There's a
Well,
lot of strings.
I remember just everyone being up in arms about this when NCLB passed at the time, because the concept of making sure that your teachers are really good teachers is a good one. However, asking, and again, okay, so there are veteran teachers who are crappy teachers. I had some of them in, my
I know
career.
some of them.
But there are also veteran teachers who are great educators, and basically what
They don't jump the
NCLB
hoops, yeah.
what NCLB required them to do was, even if they've been teaching for 30 years and they only have an undergraduate degree, NCLB essentially forced 30-year veteran educators to go back and get master's degrees in subject areas that they were teaching to maintain their
'cause it
highly
used to
qualified
be
status.
A lot of, and this is a joke among teachers, if you know any teachers, especially at public schools, there are jokes about those that got masters in educations for a lot of them because they were like these weird, random, obscure colleges you've never heard of with like, they send you a bunch of you know what I mean? Like, but that was part of the industry, was just getting your master's to get the pay bump. But this is what really pushed that change. Where like now I couldn't just go get a master, and I'm talking, it's not like a master's of education is not a success and something to be very proud of, because it definitely is, but the process of getting these masters are very different than getting a master's in English is not the same as getting a master's in education, especially when I'm a teacher and I still don't have a degree in education anywhere. Would have been nice to get one at some point along the way.
Nah.
Maybe I would have known more about Horace Mann had I gotten that
You would have known
master's in
about Horace
education.
Mann. I'm not sure you would have been a
But
better English teacher.
it really puts schools in a bad spot because they get, you know what I mean, like rewarded or not for these teachers, but it's also costing the schools more money.
I was going to say, rewarded means money from the state is what that means.
Right, but also part of that is that we get a pay bump when we get a master's.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a very sticky thing. This is definitely somewhere that they did not think about long-term effects for schools.
I mean, like I said, I like the idea of encouraging even veteran educators to continue to pursue like professional development opportunities. And like maybe that does look like more formal, education degrees, whatever it is. But I do think that should not happen in a vacuum, meaning a school system should be supporting professional development opportunities for teachers for their career.
Yep.
And to the extent They're not. They're just shooting themselves in the foot, if you ask me. But anyway, we'll get to a little bit about how much it costs to maintain your licensure. Maybe we should just...
Do you want me to run you through this?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Ohio, again, this is my only experience. So this is our 5-year professional.
Oh,
So
I just want... Let me make a quick note
Go ahead.
before you get on that. You can't, like, transfer your license to another state if you move.
No.
That was just, like, another note that I wanted to throw in there. Like,
other states will normally give you 1 year to do whatever you need to do.
Right.
They'll give you like a 1-year provisional if you can provide proof of your current state's license.
and there'll be different requirements, though, depending on the state. I know that the difference between Maryland and Ohio, both places where I've lived, is, like, you could have had an English teaching license in Ohio, but you would have had to take, like, a couple of different classes or something to get basically the equivalent license in Maryland.
Well, the Maryland I know required like reading course, like a specific reading course that I think their state must mandate as part of whatever their curriculums are.
But that's just to point out that it's not one and done. You have to...
Right.
And if you move, you can look for new licensing requirements.
I know in Texas, I don't think you have to have your secondary language license, but I think you have to have so many hours in teaching in a secondary language because of the rate of Spanish speakers and things like that. So I know it depends a lot geographically, but also it's just a matter of whatever that state has built into public schools curriculum, and you know what I mean? It's part of requirements.
Cool.
Okay, so in Ohio,
run me down here.
in order to keep your license, so you've gotten your 5-year license.
So that was just to get the license, what you just talked about.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about how you maintain that license.
So
that
now you have a new cycle every 5 years. So during that time, like I said, you have to start with a 5-year plan, which is basically a framework that says these are my goals. Mm-hmm. All of your professional development that you do towards continuing to get your new 5-year license should relate to that goal. And so every school has a group called the LPDC, the Local Professional Development Committee.
Oh my. So many acronyms.
And they are in charge of saying yes or no, basically. Okay, so for us, it looks like this. So every 5 years, you have to have 6 semester hours of coursework related to classroom teaching, or 18 CEUs, which is continuing education units.
Continuing education units?
Yeah. Okay, so there's 6 semester hours, 18 CEUs, or 180 contact hours. You good so far?
What does that all mean? What are CEUs and what are contact hours?
Okay, so CEUs are like, if you take like a class, they'll usually say it's this many CEUs or this many contact hours. And then that's how you get to pick which you need, basically.
Okay, so this is like classes or like conference attendance or basically a multitude of kinds of professional development.
Even our professional development at school gets counted this way.
But you have to do the 180 hours of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, at the beginning of our COVID year, so 2020, 2021, we actually did 5 days of professional development at the beginning of the year. That gave us 30 contact hours or 3 CEUs.
These are the ones where they told you to smile at your students when you had your masks on?
that was in the middle of the year. Okay. That was much later. Okay, so at my district, we have to have everything professional development wise that we want to attend approved before we do it. So we cannot go pay $500 and then submit it and it gets approved. I learned the hard way. Yeah. So we have to submit something that says what we're going to go do, how it relates, what we're going to get out of it. And then this committee meets and they decide yes or no to me doing it. And then if they decide yes, I can go do it. And if I decide no, then I can't go do it. Or if I do go do it, I don't get anything out of it other than just me attending it.
Yeah.
Once.
That doesn't mean that they'll pay for it also, by the way. This just means they're
they're not paying for anything.
Yeah.
You're paying for it.
No, I just want to be clear. This is on your dime. You have to.
At my district, yes. At other districts I've been at, that is not the case.
Yeah, well, your district is trash about that. But anyway.
Well, the thing is that the funding for that type of stuff comes a lot of ways. And so one of the schools I was at before was in a very different socioeconomic sort of situation. And so every single teacher there got like X amount. I think it was like $1,500 for a year.
Yeah.
And if you didn't use it, you could whatever. Now, to be fair, there is a fund at my district, but it's first come, first serve for when you apply for it. So you can get...
It's not a lot of money that they've set aside for this anyway.
I did get almost all my class back, though.
That's good.
To be fair. But in a year where a lot of people do professional development, it's just luck of the draw to get in and get it done. So once you've done all that and you've supported all of your hours and you've counted literally everything, and you find, in my case, I was finding CEUs, like hours that I did at school that I forgot to ever put in that were like 3 years old, but I kept the paper that like somebody signed, thank God. So I literally was going through folders and I was like, oh yes, another 1.2, or like I was like
Scraping
pulling
for hours.
them together, and then ended up finding a class to take, and now I had way more than I needed. But keeping our license is really hard too. So once you have gotten all of your hours, whatever it looks like, you have to pay $200+ to the state to get your new 5-year license.
This is just a fee to get a piece of paper, right? I just
It's like 200, I think, right now. It's something close to that. So.
And what is the reason for the $200 supposedly?
To be clear, though, this is only your teaching license. If you're a coach, you pay separately for that license.
Coaching license.
Oh, all kinds of licenses, I mean.
sure.
Like, you have to pay for them all separately. So it's not like a great job, you got your license, but it's also...
When you decide to become a teacher, not only are you going into a profession that doesn't pay particularly well, especially in this country, you're also... agreeing to continue to pay for the privilege of earning that usually crappy salary.
Yep.
Okay.
Here we are.
Cool. Maybe we should stop defunding education.
Hey, maybe.
Maybe.
So, I will say that one of the hardest thing for me has been, it's really hard to find good professional development, first of all.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's hard to attend when you have a substitute shortage, which we've had. And it's been frustrating at times because I've really wanted to go to like the national conference for English teachers, for example. Like NCTE is like the holy grail for English teachers. And it's usually not physically close to Central Ohio.
Right.
So I did get to go to it for the first time ever a few years ago because it was in Baltimore. But I had to pay for it all. And like to attend NCTE is hundreds of dollars. I mean, it is, and to be fair, I got to meet really, really cool people, and I got to see some great speakers, and so it was a great experience. But it is frustrating to want to do these things and to deal with the guilt of, can I afford it? Can I have a sub? And that year, like NCTE for English teachers is always in November. And for my school, the week before Thanksgiving, we only have school Monday, Tuesday. And that was like the National Writing Projects Conference. And I really wanted to do the NWP that year. And I couldn't because I was going to have to take off Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. And I couldn't take off that much before a break. So it's just hard because like you're limited to when you can do things. And it makes you feel bad because you want to be in the classroom. And it's not easy to take off anyways, but it's really frustrating to try to find good professional development that's actually doing something for you, that isn't breaking the bank, and that like you don't feel horrible for not going to school. You know what I mean? Like it's just hard. So it's one of the most frustrating things I would say about getting my license and keeping it is just you hope that the committee approves you.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things pop up, or there's like an opening that you didn't get into and then you can, and then it's like, well, like, I don't know. It's just hard.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Here we are.
I
guess I'll just keep doing it. Who knows? So, I was going to mention one other thing. My dad, who retired, like 10 years ago now, I guess, at this point, 9 years ago, he had a lifetime license, which is basically a unicorn in the wild, as far as I can tell.
I've never heard of that.
They don't do that anymore. Right. Yeah. And so instead I'm just paying a ton of money. So here we are. So the state's getting $200 some every 5 years from every teacher.
Jeez.
We make $7.20 every other week. So you add that up, you make no money.
No problem.
But it is a lot of work to be a teacher, not only because of all those things, but also like to keep your license and to, I mean, and to be fair, I know that people in the medical fields, like a lot of jobs require professional development. I think that's probably good for everyone, right? Because things change and evolve over time. And I remember my mom doing classes and things like that. Like, I think it's a normal part of it, but if you're not going to support your people in ways to do it,
that's the thing
you have
for me.
To have it.
That's the thing for me. Is like, I love to learn, so I am happy to continue my own education and various professional development kinds of opportunities. But when I'm not doing it with the support of my employer, I'm just gonna scream. Like that's really hard. The issue for me is that, and in the case of public educators, like we all need to contribute to that by being aware of, local levies and school board issues and things like that, because that directly impacts. But also we need to hold, administrators accountable. State boards of education, we need to hold them accountable. The administrators in your district, for example, have not historically, at least recently, done a good job at all of advocating for professional development opportunities for teachers. I don't think, because I'm familiar with your district. That's just my own opinion. But I think that
there's a lot of moving parts to that too, which makes it really hard. Without subs, there's such an issue that schools are having a hard time
substitute
with it.
Teachers.
Yeah. And the other thing I will say, what this really makes hard is that it forces teachers to have to do a lot of these things during the summer. Like I think I've talked about before, summer is when I finally catch up on these appointments and like all these other things, because I don't want to have to, But it's hard because then, like, for example, the next couple of days, I've got 10 hours of professional development I'm going to be doing next week. I've got another 10 or 12 hours. And not that I don't have time in the summer for it, but also it's hard to, you know what I mean? Like, I also don't want to have to give up a lot of my time. And I mean, I spent a couple summers ago, we did travel for me to spend 4 days at professional development, and I got 30 some hours in 4 days, and we had to drive to DC for it. So I'm lucky to have these opportunities because they are good for me, but it's hard. And especially as someone who doesn't have kids, like imagine having kids and being home in the summer and trying to do this. I'm lucky. Because the dog can do this, but
the dog is napping. Snoring
I don't take that for granted, because I think most of my friends have kids, and I don't know how they take these classes or do these things like on top of your job. It's a lot. So
yeah,
it's not great. But maybe I'll start GoFundMe's to pay for all of our teacher licenses renewals. So anything else?
Oh, the only other thing I just want to very quickly mention, if you're teaching at a college level, normally you're looking for a terminal degree in your field of whatever expertise or study or whatever. And the thing that is different at that level is that publishing is a big publishing research and publishing books and publishing whatever you can publish is a huge part of the college level industrial academic machine. And
it's hard.
I was very lucky. The undergraduate school that I went to, there was not a publishing requirement. People did do a lot of publishing, but for the faculty, you weren't required to produce a certain amount of published work to keep being a faculty member.
Gotcha.
And the difference it made was very obvious in that everyone working there had a lot of time to interact with students.
Because they weren't doing that.
Because they weren't worried about
publishing
all the time.
Well, they probably didn't really need to take like sabbaticals and stuff then too.
They did have sabbaticals.
They did so.
Yeah, they did. And people would go and study and publish books on their sabbaticals and do all kinds of stuff. It's not that it's not that they didn't publish. It's that there wasn't the
requirement
fear of publishing to keep your job. And then when I did go to teacher college, Columbia, everybody was just freaking publishing all the time. And I couldn't get a private meeting with anyone. My own faculty advisor, my own degree advisor could not get an appointment with her because she's working on a book or whatever. And I'm just I'm sorry, but is your job to produce stuff for other people to read, or is it to teach me? Because I'm paying you to teach me.
My undergraduate, I remember some of my professors having pieces published, and since then I always have some of their books because I love them and they're amazing people. But I definitely remember the stress of sabbaticals for them and what that was like. And
publishing, to me, in my experience of it in the post-secondary setting, it was a prestige machine. It's like, we need to have a bigger name for ourselves. Which Teachers College doesn't need to do that. It's already the biggest, the college of education, graduate college of education. Columbia University is just fine.
I think you'll probably
in terms of prestige, but there was so much a focus on it that it just felt like no real teaching was going on. So I have a lot of complaints about that place.
My master's program was at a much larger institution than my undergraduate, really old school in Ohio. There's definitely some publishing pressure there, but it was kind of neat to work with those professors at such a larger school because it was more like they might do a chapter in a book. You know what I mean? It was kind of neat to see the work that they did, whereas some of my undergrad professors, a lot of them did, don't get me wrong, just work with chapters and books and things like that.
Which I think is also all good. Again, to be clear, I think that professional development opportunities are great. People should do them. Publishing opportunities are great. People should do them. But requiring the volume of those things that we do for credentialing for me, it seems to remove the focus from the actual relationship between teachers and students and shifts everything to this weird professionalization of that concept. It just really takes a toll,
The other
I
thing
think.
that I thought was cool in my master's was the work, like our final project, our thesis. It was really neat. And we basically actually each took a chapter of a book and wrote it and then combined it with everyone that was in my group. And
Sweet.
it was really cool because my professor could be like, okay, I think I might try to publish this. And like, they had that opportunity to work with us. And it was a really cool way to do it. It was just neat to, well, they did, and they could work with you so much because each of us were given like one part of it. And so it was a really cool way to do it. And I remember thinking like, what a great way to have to deal with the stress of publishing. Is to get to work like this. So it was really neat, but definitely not that great everywhere, and probably way too hard for too many people who don't deserve the extra stress when they already have a very hard job. So, anyways.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah, you are on. You go ahead and do last episode's question.
Oh, I think
this
I
was
did
yours.
I think I did this one last time, but that's okay. Yeah. So last episode's question: approximately how many acres in total are encompassed by the national park system in the United States? You could even ballpark it if you wanted to. How many?
You can round up. If
how
you need
many
to.
acres total? And that is 85.1 million acres.
That was a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
It's a lot of acres, and then 2.6 of those remain in private ownership, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
The largest,
hard to imagine.
Yeah, the largest unit is Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve in Alaska, and the smallest unit is the Thaddeus Kosciuszko. I'm not gonna get that right. Thaddeus Kosciuszko National Memorial, Pennsylvania, at 0.02 acres.
So that's like
Tiny, 80 square
it's
meters.
like one.
It's like
statue.
a driveway.
Cool.
Yeah. So one's really tiny, one's enormous. But yeah, 85.1 million acres in the NPS.
Okay, so this episode's question.
Yeah.
Can you tell it's summer?
It's summer.
Yeah. Here it goes. As of March 2020, what percentage of teachers leave their profession within the first 5 years?
First 5 years of teaching, how many teachers leave? Yep. What percentage?
What's that percentage?
Okay, cool.
Okay.
What did you learn this week?
I found I don't know what was happening on Twitter, but everyone was talking about the Appalachian Mountains.
I remember that.
There was like 2
I did
days
not
of just
understand why everyone started talking about the Appalachian Mountains, but they did.
Well,
yes.
that book kind of put a spotlight on Appalachia.
That J.D. Vance dude.
So not that people don't care about Appalachia, but that brought a new sort of focus on Appalachia.
It's the guy who wrote Hillbilly Elegy.
Hillbilly
is what
Elegy,
we're
yeah, that's
talking
the
about.
piece.
Apparently, people got to talking about ye old Appalachia.
Yeah. So in our last episode, if you listened, we were at the Tetons, Grand Tetons, and we were in Yellowstone. And we spent some time in Montana, which is part of the Rocky Mountains up through there. And if you've ever been west, you know that the Rocky Mountains and the Tetons are very, very different from the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains don't have peaks in most places like these other mountains
just look
do.
like big hills.
They look like rolling hills, through most of the East Coast, I suppose. And so I think Appalachia's pretty, don't get me wrong. I mean, I work in the foothills of it, but it's not quite the Tetons. But
not quite.
Which is not fair to them either. But so the whole thing on Twitter was kind of defending the Appalachian Mountains.
These mountains are cool too.
And it was a great thread, and I really did learn a lot, but I didn't know this. The Appalachian Mountains are 480 million years old.
That's very old.
That's old.
So,
that's before animals. That's
yeah.
And it's weird because and I'm not going to get into all of this because I'm not this smart, and I don't know this much about mountains, but essentially what I found was that the Rockies and the Tetons are much younger.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the Appalachian Mountains look the way that they do. It's because they're so old. Mm-hmm. But also when you talk about the fossils that exist in the Appalachian Mountains, it's because it was water covered.
Yeah,
and things like
it's
that.
Sea life.
Yeah, so it's very, very different from other mountains for that reason. And also because there's a stretch of the Appalachian Mountains that go up into whatever when the world separated. And so we can see how they've tracked and things like that. So
I think the one thread that you sent me suggested that what was once part of the thing that we now know as the Appalachian Range stretches into Europe.
That's what it was,
right,
yeah.
Right.
And that's what they think happened.
I really didn't.
When
I
Pangea
couldn't
split up.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't follow all of that very well, but it looked really fascinating.
It was fascinating,
yeah.
but as someone who grew up just so close to the Appalachian Mountains and never gave them any credit, what was I doing? They're so
what were
freaking
you
old.
doing?
But to be fair, parts of Virginia are just incredibly beautiful because of these mountains.
Yeah.
And they are very pretty. But it's just funny to go out west and be like, these are mountains. And
Right.
then you look at Appalachia and you're like, these are hills.
These
Okay.
are rolling hills.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
And also, if you are of this area, you know that we do say Appalachia. So,
Yeah, not Appalachia.
no, you're not going to do that. And they're the Appalachian Mountains. Anyways, that's been my Ohio history lesson of our Appalachian Mountains. So, 480 million years old.
That's very old.
That's so old. That's like, I think it's 100 million years before animals even. I don't know. It was, those are numbers I can't really think about. So,
Woof.
what'd you learn?
Oh, I learned how to form an LLC.
Overnight.
Overnight.
I mean, you got it overnight.
Yeah, I guess technically it really
That's what
did
I
happen
meant.
overnight.
Sorry. You knew about it more than overnight.
It was
but,
like one of these things where, okay, so much like getting a teaching license, you have to simply pay the state to look at papers. So I'd pay like
That's
$100.
our favorite thing.
It's like $100, 90 something dollars to get a
How long is it good for?
forever. I don't know.
Okay, I would
you-
say that's a better deal.
you got for real. I don't have to do $200.
You can make some money with your
years.
thing. I can't make any
For
money
real.
with mine.
Well, I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I wanted to set up a company to take care, to kind of just like serve as the entity through which I do some random business projects that I'm working on. And so I'm like, I really should just do this not as me, just a sole proprietor. I should set up an LLC for this just because it makes sense to do that. It's same for tax purposes or whatever. But anyway, I've just been like thinking about this for quite a while, and I finally just did it. So I wrote up articles of organization and I talked about myself in them.
You're a business,
I am a small business owner. It's
and
true.
it's not this podcast.
I filed my, you have to turn in your articles of organization to the state and they review it, and I sent them in on Bastille Day. So my company exists as of Bastille Day 2021. So yeah, that's what I learned how to
love
do.
a good French reference.
July 14th. I
Americans
don't
are here
know.
for it. I think it's
Anyway.
cool. I'm proud of you. I think it's great. It was kind of funny because you talked about maybe paying to expedite the process, and
Well, yeah, I was like, maybe I should pay to expedite this just because I don't want to have it drag on. Because it said something like, I don't know, 2-4 business weeks or something. But I got it the next day. So I was like, glad I didn't pay to expedite it.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have paid like $300 to have it in 4 hours.
That's what I was
There's
thinking
some
of.
weird
yeah.
option. Like, I'm like, okay, if you're doing something that requires you to have a business
In 4 hours.
4 hours, then you're doing something illegal.
You weren't planning
and that
for
should
it.
not exist. Anyway.
Yeah, they didn't want to get sued.
Yeah.
That was their whole
They're like,
thing.
oh crap, we need to retroactively have a business.
No.
Okay. Yeah, but it was interesting. It's an
Yeah,
interesting
it's awesome.
process. Yeah.
Congr-
My dad's
congratulations.
very well versed in business stuff, and he helped me and looked over the papers and everything. And
And you did it.
I got it.
So I read about mountains, and you started an LLC.
I did. It's true.
That's us in a nutshell.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it. We're just trying to take care of ourselves still. I know COVID hasn't gone away. Hopefully,
Yep.
we're having some more confidence with vaccinations and things like that. But
Yeah, y'all
Still
need to
take
get
care of
vaccinated
yourself.
if you haven't done that yet. Please,
if you haven't done
please
it
get
and
along.
you can, right?
Please
if you
get
don't
along
have
and
some
get
sort
the
of
jab.
medical thing preventing you, it's really important for everyone to be getting it, especially as we start talking about schools returning and things like that. We're going to be looking at a large population who can't be vaccinated because they're under 12, and so it's going to be kind of scary. And I know someone whose daughter under 12 just tested positive the other day, so it is scary and it does still happen. And so we've got to take care of the kids too. But try to enjoy some summer. Just take care of yourselves. Don't get too wrapped up in anything you read. Don't fall in the Twitter holes. It's just a bad
Take
place.
naps when you need them.
All of Twilight is on Netflix. So, like, what else would you possibly be doing?
I don't know why we've been watching all the Twilight movies.
We
but-
watched My Unorthodox Life on Netflix.
Yeah, we descended into some like semi-trashy
We needed it.
television and movies, but
But
they're
it makes
actually
me feel good.
It's fine. It's wholesome.
So, what I'm saying is that doesn't sound like self-care, but it is.
treat yourself.
And
Eat healthy foods.
or just eat what you want. Maybe don't overcommit.
Exercise a little.
Yeah,
You'll feel better.
Do try to move your body some.
Exercise a little. I
Look at
really
the
don't.
sun.
I don't
Get some
realize.
sun.
Yeah, get some sun.
That feels good.
I don't really realize how badly I feel when I don't exercise.
Yeah, I can tell. For myself, not for you. Sorry, that sounded like
I was
total
like,
attack.
I hope I'm not.
Your eyes
an
like sunk, and I
ogre.
was like, "Oh God, that's personal."
I'm like,
No.
I mean, I know I don't feel
I mean,
so great, but I hope
I
I,
also-
don't take it out on you. Yes.
Whoop, gotta go. Bye.
Uh-oh. We gotta go have a
No,
conversation.
I just mean I feel that as well. But I can't tell with your mood if you haven't done something that
Yeah.
made you. I think
Yeah.
just walking and like mowing the yard is my favorite thing, but it makes you feel like you accomplished something, and that really changes it.
Yeah.
So
Any kind of moving around, a little bit of exercise, it's self-care.
yeah, or just
Just think of it as
or
self-care.
just lay in your yard and read a book.
You get outside.
Self care. Great.
Okie dokie.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hey listeners, thanks for supporting 16 to 1.
We're trying to grow our audience, so please check us out at 16to1.com, all spelled out, and tell your friends about the show.
On our website, you can find links to follow us on social media, an archive of all our old episodes, and a contact form where you can get in touch.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next show.
What?
Woo.
What?
Woo, woo, woo.
Oh, woo, woo. Oh, woo. Oh, woo, woo.
Woo, woo, woo.
Oh, woo, woo.